gathered details about the situation, but
What's the overall, what are we looking at here?
well, I guess the main thing we have to go by at this point now is video footage. And the video footage that was released by TMZ, always looking to stir the pot and let it sizzle for a bit.
Let it sizzle and drop.
Sizzle and drop, trickle and flop. I guess what the footage shows is Ray Rice at a unspecified Atlantic City casino dragging his unconscious girlfriend
Oh, man.
out of an elevator
Oh, man.
into the hallway, and then after dragging her into the hallway, a security guard approaches them, and then it kind of just cuts from there. And there have been reports that it was actually an altercation between the two of them, like they were, I guess, fist fighting.
Wow.
And I'd imagine as an NFL player, he may potentially have had the upper hand in that little scuffle, we'll
I
call
would
it.
say after the past year that he just put out,
Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't,
I don't
yeah.
think he had the slight advantage, because if he swung at her the way he went up the 3-0 today, I tell you this, the man shouldn't have a job.
Well, it's not to say that women don't play football, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll
a
get
little
to
bit.
that in a second.
We'll get
How
to that
funny
a little
that
later.
is.
But
How ridiculous that is.
But so apparently no police report was filed by either of them. But,
Of course not.
But now it's I
Public?
guess it's public, yeah, and it's going to be looked at by the higher authorities to see if I guess the local municipalities want to press. Make it an issue, I suppose. But they're trying to, I guess, kind of keep it under wraps. The two
Always
individuals, Ray Rice and his girl. I'm not sure what the status, if they're still together or not. But my whole take on the situation, Frankie, is I get we had this discussion when we were talking about Richard Sherman, and that's obviously to a much lesser degree. This is just somebody speaking inappropriately on camera.
Yeah.
But it's just in this. It's the same conversation in a certain respect, because it's about being a professional athlete, being a public figure, having a lot of influence in today's popular culture, in today's media, in today's world, and just not conducting yourself correctly. I don't know what the background story.
I think this is it seems above and beyond anything that Sherman would, you know what I mean?
Clearly, but my point is that's a small situation of someone not conducting themselves.
Yeah.
And this is, it gets to this point.
This is beyond conducting. This is just like not controlling anything. You know what I mean? And you know what? You can say it's the same, because neither one of them have control over themselves. Like when Sherman was approached and kind of like not intimidated, but
antagonized.
Antagonized by Crabtree. Instead of just having some kind of control, he just kind of flipped out.
True.
But in this case, this is like
it's
obviously
beyond
it's
that.
way,
Yeah,
obviously it's way worse.
Assault. Yeah.
Obviously this is way worse in leagues above and beyond. But it's just like at this point in time, they're not going to do anything.
Well, sadly enough, though, Frankie, by the same token, it's not even the worst that we've seen out of NFL players. I mean, we have NFL players who've been involved in murders, double murders, executions, drunk driving accidents. It's just the list goes on. And it's not exclusive to NFL players, but you almost do get the sense that the NFL sort of attracts a certain personality type that may be a little bit more prone to this sort of barbaric madness. That's the only way I can describe it. I mean, I understand not all relationships are peachy keen. Not everybody gets along all the time.
But not in every relationship. It's like they were fist fighting. It's just like, what do you mean they? That's the problem with today's day and age. It's not a question of yeah, they were fighting. It's like, what do you mean they were fighting? Like, how come nobody just pulled this idiot off of her? Like, how can nobody, like, and that's a big problem. Another big problem is the higher ups are going to look at this, and you have kids who are like, it's not unheard of. It's actually very, very common that all kids of all ages are going to be seeing this, because once they find out, Ray Rice, this, and that, they're going to go right on the internet and find this out immediately. And a lot of kids who look up to him, some are going to be heartbroken because they know what it is, and some other of them are pretty impressionable. And when they see something like this and see like one of their favorite football players carrying their girlfriend by their hair, that doesn't send a really positive message at all. And I really hope people don't take this like if any kind of punishment were to come out of this, I hope this doesn't turn into another, like a different issue than what it is. Just barbaric madness, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's unfortunate that this generation, so many, you know, popular celebrities find themselves in the same position. Obviously, Chris Brown with Rihanna was a big, you know, domestic dispute sort of media frenzy, and now we have one with Ray Rice. But you brought up a great point in terms of how impressionable young kids can be, and just you know, disciplining these athletes. In my opinion, you know, teachers have a really hard job out there just being educators, but for young people, they don't seem to really have the kind of impact. You know, you don't see high school kids going to school and looking up to their teachers, but by the same token, those same kids may be looking up to these athletes that they see on TV, aspiring to be like them. Yet, if a teacher, you know, gets into a physical altercation, a domestic dispute at their home, they'll most likely be fired from their job. Yeah.
They will lose their job. It wouldn't be a matter of, oh, you fired this person because of this. It's like, no, the way they were conducting themselves outside, they represent us. So when you work at a job, and when you have, obviously, anyone who's ever had a job, what's the first thing your job tells you, especially if it's any job of importance, is when you leave this office,
you're a reflection of us.
Exactly. You represent us. So if John right now were to flip this table over and kick through the glass and just start beating people up for no reason, like his job is going to look at him like, oh, okay.
I would be thrown in jail. I wouldn't be allowed back on an Iona college campus, and I'd probably almost certainly lose my job.
Felony. You'd definitely get a felony thrown against you, and you'd get the book thrown at you. You know, but you have athletes or people with certain kind of privileges.
Justin Bieber is under the same category.
He's another one. You have just because a certain amount of name or some kind of following is behind it, immediately the first thing they want to do is just cry about it and go, oh, it's because of this. You're calling me this. You're saying that I'm this, and you're doing. And it's always a divert of the attention instead of what the actual problem is. Hey, conduct yourself like a human being, because that's what we're paying. We're paying you to play football, but try to be a human being at the same time. And some of these guys, it stinks because not all football players are like this at all.
No, not all.
You know, there's a lot of teams loaded with amazing, good people, and the
characters with strong character.
And there's a lot of, but it's sad because the ratio is more towards the negative.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the exact ratio is, but it certainly feels that way for sure. And I don't think it would be as pervasive an issue if Roger Goodell would just sort of make an example out of some of these guys.
And he doesn't. And, you know, we discussed Ray Rice, and now we're going over to the unfolding of the Richie Incognito story, John Juice, which I remember you told me that had unfolded just recently. And what was the surprising outcome for that?
Well, the story sort of developed in the beginning just with Jonathan Martin leaving.
Bullying.
Yeah, he just left the team. He was pretty much pushed to a mental state due to quote unquote bullying by Richie Incognito. And there was sort of contrasting views as to what had happened. Certain people within the Miami locker room themselves said that, oh, well, you know, they kind of viewed him almost as not tough enough, or even, I think, the word behind closed doors that was used was snitch, saying that he snitched and he sort of aired out their locker room, so to speak, or exposed the locker room dynamic to the media and what have you. And while when Martin came out initially revealing the texts that he had gotten from Richie Incognito, which were highly offensive on a number of ways, like talked about his mother in profane ways.
He talked about his race and all.
Tons and tons of stuff. So initially when the story broke, there was a lot of favor in Jonathan Martin saying, what's wrong with this Richie Incognito guy? Then when the locker room responded, it was like, hey, I guess Jonathan Martin is kind of exactly what we don't like on this show. You know, he was a real wimp.
No wimps allowed.
But then I guess there were folks who were hired to sort of like independently investigate what was happening in this locker room.
And what was those results?
Well, Richie Incognito most certainly did not come out looking favorably in that situation at all. He was indefinitely suspended from the Dolphins, and turned out that he was, first of all, just to give you a little background, he was part of like the leadership I guess, leadership committee within the Dolphins locker room, which is strange to begin with because Richie Incognito has been known to have character issues. He's been seen as one of the dirtiest players in the game previously, before any of this unfolded. So how a guy like that gets in the leadership committee in a team's locker room is somewhat strange to begin with. But essentially, I guess he had a lot of pull in that locker room, and there were guys who kind of just followed him around and were sort of like cronies. So it wasn't only Richie Incognito who was engaging in this bully-like behavior. It was also
a couple other guys
too. Other guys. And as a matter of fact, that bullyish behavior wasn't only limited to Jonathan Martin. There was racially motivated bullying towards other players on the team, to a trainer, racially motivated. He was actually an Asian guy. And on top of that, then another story was leaked about this one was really, in my personal opinion and just the way I view the world, is extremely damning towards Richie Incognito. I guess at a I think it was a charity golf event.
Yeah.
There was a volunteer female worker there, and he was sort of sexually harassing her. I guess borderline assault, depending on what your definition is. And he was taking his golf club and putting it underneath her dress and literally fondling her with his golf club. And you know, that you just
really
imagine,
disgusting,
yeah,
man.
horrific,
really disgusting,
absolutely horrific. You imagine some big meathead lunk like that doing that to a female in your family, or even a female you don't know, and it just fills you up with a type of rage, not only towards Richie Incognito himself, but the Dolphins organization for not putting a stop to this guy. I mean, you know, just kick him off the team at that point.
And that trickles all the way down to Goodell. Again, not taking a matter into his hands and making an example. The second it was released about the bullying, and then the locker room turned for Richie, it was kind of at a standstill. But once this happened, he's suspended indefinitely. But how long did it have to take for them to actually be like, hey man, this guy's kind of a creep? How long and how far did that have to go for someone to actually be like, all right, man, this guy is clearly not fit to be in this organization? And the problem is, he's not the only one. There's dozens upon dozens of guys who shouldn't be playing professional sports because their attitude is disgusting.
They just can't conduct themselves
at all.
It's so strange in today's world that for most normal jobs in, let's say, corporate America, we'll use it as an example, you have to be able to conduct yourself or you simply can't work. But in professional sports, it seems a lot of times the concept doesn't even exist. You can be filthy rich, and I'm not trying to throw dirt on wealthy people, but if you have enough money to have a private driving service and a limo service, I feel like there should be a higher penalty if you're caught with a DUI or a DWI, driving under the influence. Just those sorts of strange occurrences in the world of sports, and just the mentality. How is there no accountability now? Frankie, we were saying Richie Incognito, he's been known to be a knucklehead. This is something that's been established. So to me, the institution that really needs to be held accountable here is the Dolphins, because not only do you give the guy the pass to do this kind of stuff, and apparently I heard that they paid this woman off $30,000
just to keep her mouth shut.
Yeah, to keep her mouth shut. But then on top of that, you appoint him to the leadership committee in your locker room. That's beyond my comprehension.
So not only that's why we're saying Goodell is kind of soft in the sense of, it's just like, all right, you got rid of Richie, a suspension, indefinite suspension. What are you going to do to the Dolphins organization for not whipping him up into shape earlier?
He should make an example of them right now. It doesn't fix the damage that he's done, but at least it shows moving forward, hey, listen, it will not be tolerated.
It's not happening. And one way they should do it, the first thing next is Rice. There should be some kind of penalty or punishment against Rice for this.
Absolutely. I'm 1,000% agreement with you, Frankie.
And here's the thing is, when Burris shot himself in the club, how long was he out for?
Ooh, he was out for I think at least a year. Was it not at least a year?
And wasn't that a part of that just suspension as well?
Yeah.
Just for fire. It's just like, if you're gonna take action against one player, you do it against every single one that pull nonsense like this.
And listen, and I'm not trying to justify what Burris did, but that is sort of different in nature in the sense of he didn't hurt anybody but himself. He wasn't supposed to be carrying a firearm, but I will justify what he did more than what Richie Incognito did to some innocent woman. I mean, that's just
Ray Rice,
or what Ray Rice did to his girlfriend. I mean, at this point, you have to understand a lot of these guys. They do go out, they go to clubs, they go partying, and people, sadly enough, in the world we live in, people understand that they're celebrity athletes, then they know that they're rich, and they want to rob them. So at least he can have somewhat of a defense about self-defense, whether it was illegal self-defense or not. But someone like Richie Incognito, it's just being straight up being a monster.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. If you have any questions, call me. I'm not going to answer. And now, sliding over to another track, we will come back and touch a little more on another sports issue. And the captain, the one guy, the guy who did it, the guy who will always do it, the guy who will do it even after he puts his pinstripes down. We'll touch on the Jeets.
Jeets the streets, baby.
Jeets the streets. And